You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. We're back. It's Thursday, time for episode 2 of your bi-weekly options extravaganza known as the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. Glad to see so many of you were having fun with all the fun pro stuff throughout the week. Pro folks getting an extra bonus this week. We did double duty yesterday on both the Options Bootcamp and OPR. Drag Brian in for a little extra huddle action. So you folks don't get all of that. You've already got Options Bootcamp early sneak preview. You don't have to wait a week for the second episode of that. You're also going to get the second episode of OPR in your hot little hands a little bit later today as well. Don't have to wait a week for that one either. So our pro folks getting fun early access to a lot of cool stuff in addition to everything else, the live streams, the pro Q&A, the options oddities, all the other goodness. Got a cool new app for you folks as well. Just heard from the folks at Castos. They're launching a cool new app for the private podcasts out there. So you folks will have a separate app if you want. So you want to have a dedicated app for it? Well, now we got one for you. We're going to send that out to you guys as well. So all sorts of fun stuff happening on the pro and the plus side of the fence. Where do you go to learn more? TheOptionsInsider.com. Pick your poison. If you want to go live/pro, if you want to go live plus, all this other cool stuff we're talking about, the apps, the pro Q&As, all the other good stuff, early access to shows, then you got to go pro. TheOptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. Wherever you go, make sure you keep those questions and comments coming. We love to hear from all of you out there. And let's see who we're hearing from on the old program today. Once again, we are joined from the heart of darkness, known as Maine, by the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi, from OptionPit.com, by way of the Giovinazzi family fortress-like compound, constantly shrouded in darkness. Mr. G, welcome back to the program. Can you even see your computer screen? It is so dark.
You know what? It's flickering through the mist and the haze, the scary mist and darkness. It's just flickering through.
The way I've described Maine now, it sounds like the land of Mordor, just shadows and fog and mist and just horrors lurking around every turn. So it sounds like a great place. Plan your summer vacation to Maine right now. Hit the Maine Board of Tourism. As we keep on rolling, another fun place maybe you want to check out during the summertime. It is the land adjacent to Chicago, known as St. Charles, where we are joined once again by the informal mayor of St. Charles himself, Mr. Uncle Mike Tusaw, from the appropriately named St. Charles Wealth Manager. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the program. To you as well, sir.
Always happy to be here. It is a pleasure. And we actually do have a new mayor in St. Charles in the last election. So exciting times here in the pride of the fox.
Well, we all know that's just a figurehead. The real power flows through St. Charles Wealth Manager. That's all I'm going to say. as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, let's get to it. Time for the Trading Block, the portion of the show. We break down what the heck we're watching, what is lighting up our screens out there in today's action. And we're seeing the markets, for the lion's share this week, kind of struggling to maintain their footing. That seems to be the case yet again today. Most of the major indices, with the exception of the Dow, which seems to want to be doing its own thing today, up not about 0.1%, pretty close to it. Everything else is pretty firmly actually in the red today. S&P off 0.4%, closing in on 0.5%. The NASDAQ off nearly a full percent, about 0.9%. So we're seeing some decent red on the screen out there. All that red means we got some vol staying firm, staying frothy, staying frosty. Keep an alert for what the next shoe to drop might be. Come into Showtime, we had VIX cash at about 16.75. That puts it up actually about a third of a handle from where it was on Monday's show. So staying frosty, staying vigilant out there in vol land. VVIX back. It seems to vacillate. Be right back up to 120, which is where it is right now, up 8 points, or kind of giving up the ghost back down to like 103 somewhere. Seems like there's not a lot of wiggle room between those two extremes. Anything happens, bam, right back up to 120. There we go. Things seem to be okay again. Okay, back down to like 103. Oh, back up to 120 again. It's such a strange time. Again, but I've been saying that for a year and a half, so nothing new there. VXX, the product you folks like to fade, not getting a lot of joy on the fade this week. In fact, it's literally unched from where it was on Monday. Not many times we could say that for VXX. Usually it's gone somewhere, usually to the downside. This week, it's pretty much at a 29.25, which is exactly where it was on Monday's show. And Vol Q, a.k.a. the at-the-money vol of the NASDAQ, feeling its oats again. I mean, NASDAQ off nearly a full percentage point out there, so that's not surprising. It's at about an 18.5, up about a point from where it was this time last week. Now let's go back around the horn, the opposite of the way we started. Let's go out to the de facto mayor of St. Charles, Mr. Uncle Mike. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, when you're not busy doing your deputy / de facto / quote unquote real mayor duties, what's lighting up your tape out there, sir?
Good to know. We get along pretty well out here, so not a lot of need for deputies out here, thankfully. But anyway, in the markets today, first thing that's lighting up my tape, there's some bond buyers out there. We're getting back up to some higher levels in the 10-year. And with this, I think that we're kind of at the higher end of the range a little bit. I remember on Monday talking about how I was excited because I sold an in-the-money covered call and it worked out. And, well, I'm still in the same in-the-money covered call, but now it would have been in the money had I done at the money at this point. But the point is that I'm collecting premium, and that's what I'm going for is income, which I talked about on Monday and also in my blog that you can find if you follow me at Mike Tusa on Twitter. But with that, I think that the Fed is speaking today, or was speaking, and so it's kind of, for now, it's a meh, meaning that we're at similar levels now that we were shortly after the market opened today. And so I don't think the market is reacting too strongly to what the Fed's doing one way or another. We're down. I mean, we are down 0.5%, but this is not enough of a move to where I could say, okay, this was based on what the Fed said or this, that, or the other, because we're at a very similar level. And we were even at very similar levels probably about 2 hours before the market opened. And this is close to being about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th test of these bottoms that we're at right now since 2 hours before the market opened. So we're kind of channeling today, but the channel is to the downside, and the channel it's in the red, so it's a red channel, if you will. And with where we're going to go, we are still just a small amount away from all-time highs. With this, I think this has kind of been an opportunity these last few days to take a few deltas off the table. That's what I've been doing. So I guess I'm only slightly bullish right now. So that's bearish to me. So I'm actually looking for opportunities to get back into the S&P in any way with which I can. Also, on days like today, if you've been waiting for a little bit of a pullback, then this could be a day to sell some puts if there's some stocks that you want to get into. We do have a little bit of an increase in the VIX today. We're up over the 17 handle. So with volatility higher, if you had some money on the sidelines and you wanted to use it, today could be a day with which to do it. I think that we'll see where everything goes the rest of today and tomorrow. But for right now, I'm personally a little bit on the sidelines, but I'm awaiting eagerly with my finger on the buy button, if you will.
Uncle Mike unloading all of his deltas. Beware, market, when the perma bull is bearish now. I think you said you sold everything and then some, right, Uncle Mike? If I can read between the lines.
Not quite. But thankfully, this show's recorded so people could hear what I actually said.
I may have paraphrased or perhaps inserted a word or phrase or two there. You'll have to go back and check the tape, listeners, as we keep on rolling out to the land of perpetual darkness known as Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, as you peer through the gloom, what is lighting up your screen, sir? Man, Maine sounds like a horrible place. I never want to go there again.
Between you telling Tucson he wants to get short when he's getting long, and me with Maine when it's dark and perpetual light, I'm beginning to think you're kind of like opposite guy. You're opposite guy. I'm thinking.
Or am I the only one who sees the truth? Is that the real truth?
It's like Bizarro World on Seinfeld, I think.
I think there's something going on here. As far as what's going on, you have this feeling that everybody thinks the market's going to drop, yet it doesn't. I think 2020 got a lot of people spoiled, right? We had huge rallies and pretty good sell-offs too. I mean, obviously that first big sell-off from all-time highs, and everybody was worried about the pandemic. Clearly, that was kind of a big one. And then we had, we had that tech wreck in the fall, early in the fall. We had that one come down after, they kept the shutdown going when everybody thought, why are we keeping the shutdown going? There was that sell-off. So there was pretty solid moves. And, I'm looking here at the last 3 months of the year, and I'm like, I'm seeing, there's like little bitty drop-offs, right? We had a little bitty drop-off last week. But, for the most part, it's been pretty steady. And basically, vol doesn't really go down. So, and we were talking this in the chat room, but 16 is the new 12 in COVID land. And I think it's because a lot of players just roll their puts up. They're not selling their puts out. And I don't know how long this will last. But it does it's a Fed fueled market and all that kind of stuff, but it keeps going up. And there's still growth and the government's spending a lot of money. We don't quite know where it goes, but we still go up. So yeah, would it be healthy if we had a pullback? Sure. Because it would be cheaper to buy stuff, but we kind of flew through 4,000 there pretty fast. 4,100, 4,200, 4,300, boom, boom, boom. And we got like a stone's throw here from 4,400. So very, what you don't you don't want to get in the way of something that's going in one direction. And I mean, as of right now, that's kind of what we got. So I think 4,400 is the next closest magnet. And another thing too is we have huge tech earnings coming out next week. So, nobody's really acting quite yet, right? So that means VIX isn't moving anywhere. The market's not moving anywhere. And I think we're kind of just in stuck land right now. So it's, at least for me, looking at everything, I'm like, nothing is really hugely exciting to do. I think you could look for opportunities in individual stocks. I think there's a lot of opportunity in individual names. But broader market-wise, vol's kind of stuck and expensive. So you're sitting kind of watching.
Well, hopefully they're not watching this show. Hopefully they're listening, because if they're watching, they're missing out on exactly what's going on out there. I guess you can't technically watch it on YouTube. I know there are more than a few people who like to do just that. They like to consume it via YouTube. If that's the case, if you like staring at that kind of static image of the cover art, hey, we don't judge as long as you're consuming and enjoying. And of course, all those folks who leave those great, spam promotions for various crypto tokens. We love all you folks out there as well. YouTube comments. Just the cesspool of humanity. But that's a conversation for another day. Let's see if the markets today are a cesspool of humanity or if they're actually doing something of interest. Let's start in VIX land. VIX actually putting some numbers on the tape today. Nothing out of ordinary, but at least it's something to look at out there. 289,000 contracts on the tape. That may not sound like a lot when the ADV was, closing in on 650, but the ADV has dropped now to 425,000. So 289,000 looks like a lot more of an active day out there for VIX land. SPY at about 2.1 million. The ADV 3.75 million. So that ADV ticking up a little bit again now. Let's see if we can get it back north of 4. It was north of 4 for quite some time out there. SPY doing some paper. Go figure. The S, 652,000. The S actually looking kind of light today. Usually this time of day, it's about 100,000 more contracts on the tape. The ADV still robust there at about a 1.38, almost 1.4 million. That's a lot for the S. The Qs already north of a million, 1.01 million to be precise in the Qs right now. The ADV is about 1.3 million out there. So the Qs back on the rampage. And you know what else is on the rampage are freaking small caps. IWM lighting it up out there today, at least from an overall volume perspective. 627,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV is only 581,000, so it's already blown through its ADV. IWM is also off nearly 1% right now, about 0.9%. So keeping pace with the NASDAQ to the downside. If you want more small cap flavor, stay tuned for TWIFO in a little over an hour there, listeners. We'll get into that. Also got a great expert joining me on the world of ags. Ags have been extremely volatile of late out there. We've been talking about them a lot on the show of late. They are inescapable. They're like Thanos. They are inevitable out there in the world of commodities and futures options right now. So we're going to get into them with a great guest on TWIFO coming up a little bit later on in the day. Let's go on out now to our most actives. And it seems like most of the usual offenders are on the list again. They kind of just shuffled their order a little bit. Number 10, NVIDIA back in the top 10. By the way, it cost you nearly 260,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. So that's nothing to sneeze at. 258,000 to be precise. That gets you to NVIDIA. Number 9, AMD, 1,000 more. 259,000 for AMD. Then we go up to number 8, Bank of America, 264,000. Number 7, Facebook, 271 on the tape. Number 6, the Amazonians back in the pack there at 289,000. So we're already up to number 5. Still haven't broken 300K, which is kind of interesting. That gets us number 5, gets us to space. Ever since Mr. Branson did his little space flight there, space has been putting up some numbers, 291,000 contracts to be precise. Today, number 4, NEO. Now we're back over 300K finally. NEO doing 305,000. Followed by its elder sibling, shall we say, Tesla. Number 3, 761,000. What could knock Tesla down to number 3? You know what it is. It's AMC. Let's see what our old friend, the Mimi Band, is up to there today. I'll get a little bit of its luster back, up 5%. Still trading right around $35. So a pale shadow of where it was not too long ago. Just 5 days ago, it was nearly $50. So AMC, not looking so good on the stock front, but hey, on the options front, it's doing some numbers, 951,000. How many of those are 145 calls? I guess I'll have to tune into Oddities on Friday to find out. And the big dog, and looking very big today, might I add. We got the old Apple, a.k.a. the fruit company that Uncle Mike used to love so much, then kind of stopped loving. 1.85 million contracts on the tape. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's Apple saying, hey, all you meme kids, all you also-rans in the top 10, here's how it's done. That's serious numbers for Apple of late. The stock, funnily enough, the stock isn't really doing a heck of a lot. It's off about 0.9%, a little over a handle. They earlier made new all-time highs out there, so that seems like that's what's driving all the action out there. Looks like also maybe a Morgan Stanley analyst trying to jump the gun on earnings, saying, I think they're going to beat earnings. Maybe that's contributing to it. Either way, maybe it's that new MagSafe battery pack everyone's so jazzed about. Who knows? Whatever it is, something's driving all the nearly 2 million contracts on the tape right now for Apple listeners. That's serious business. Is that you? Are you out there slinging Apple? Let us know what you're up to out there. You know what you could be slinging this week as well, listeners? That's right. It's back. The wheel has turned yet again. The pieces are set. The board is in place. We're ready to dance here for another session of the earnings volatility game, kicking it off this week here. After last season, still coming in at a somewhat underwhelming 74%. Can we buck the trend, or will things get darker, perhaps even as dark as the shores of Maine? Let's find out here. Of course, on Tuesday, we had a lot of big names popping off, a lot of financials kicking things off again this cycle. We had Goldman on Tuesday, JP Morgan Chase, a little bit of beverages in there as well with PepsiCo and Conagra as well. Wednesday, we had Bank of America, Delta Airlines, Wells Fargo, Citi, and PNC. So if you wanted your financials, you had your pick of the litter this week. Thursday, we have Morgan Stanley and U.S. Bancorp. I'm not sure if they are after or before. Morgan Stanley was before the bell. And BNY Mellon also before the bell. U.S. Bancorp also before the bell. So a bunch of those before the bell. And then tomorrow we got Chucky Schwab popping off tomorrow as well. Let's see what we've got here. Again, the earnings season report. Still pretty new, still pretty nascent. So we don't really have a good overall number. Looks like, actually, I take it back. Looks like Matt and his team just revised downward the overall numbers now for last season. It went from 74% to 72%, listeners. So we're threatening to break into the 60-odd percent. So not a good period for vol buyers. Will that continue? We shall see. So far, with a handful of names reporting, we have, let's see. Yeah, we've got about 92% going on so far. But again, we're still pretty early. Let's look at a few of these here. We've got U.S. Bancorp before the bell today. They're at about $57 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 2.3%. They delivered nearly 3%. So a little bit of outperformance in the financials. Go figure. We also have Morgan Stanley here. They're also before the bell today. 92.5 is where they were as of the announcement. They were pricing in 2.2%. Oh, they did the old whammy, no big money, no whammies. They got the whammies, unfortunately. They got 0.8%. is what they move. So that sounds more like what we've been taught to expect during the pandemic era. So far, we're 1 for 2 here, listeners. We'll see if some of these other financials can do some business out here. Mr. Uncle Mike, I know you watch financials a lot. In fact, you're a big fan of XLF. Anything exciting you this week from an overall financial perspective? Have your XLF, your beloved XLF, been delivering the goods this week, sir? Are you watching the numbers with bated breath, sir?
I don't know if I would say with bated breath, but in looking at it, what I think really needs to, what I am looking at quite a bit is the fact that as bond yields can increase, a lot of times people go to financials for a potential dividend. So I think that the bonds can play a factor in where the financials go. And then the other thing is that if we do have higher interest rates, for some financials, that can be a good thing. And for some financials, it's a bad thing. So I definitely look at them. It's something that's definitely a big part of what I look at. But in reality, the financials themselves have been kind of boring over the course of the last couple of months since April. I mean, they had this massive uptrend in the roughly 6-month span between October and April, but they've just been kind of sitting there for recent months. And I think a lot of that does have to do with, well, a couple things. The fact that they had such a massive uptrend. I think XLF was up nearly 50% in the time frame that I mentioned, but also the fact that let's say that you are a brokerage firm. If interest rates are higher, then you can charge more money on your margin interest. And that's just one of a lot of examples I could use, but that can benefit some of the financials. And the fact that we actually had kind of a sell-off in the bond area, meaning that interest rates became higher, that may have been something that contributed to the fact that financials were kind of boring the last couple months. So do I watch them? Yes, quite a bit. But I think that a big factor in this is going to be where the interest rates go and where things can happen and what we're going to do in that area. And I personally think that we are a little bit overbought in the 10-year note, meaning that the value of the 10-year note is going to go down and yields are going to go a little bit higher.
There you go. I didn't know we had the Viceroy back talking about the 10-year note here on the show here. We got Mr. Limited in the chat saying the reason Apple's doing so many numbers today is because of the AirTags. Maybe. Who knows? I did see they released some new colors of the Apple AirTags. You can get a new leather loop and keyring colors. So there you go. That could certainly account for nearly 2 million contracts on the tape out there. I like it. The air tags as we keep on rolling. You know what time it is, listeners. It is time to unleash the beast that is the Eye of Sauron. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, let's do it. It's time to get weird. It is time to get wild. It is time to unleash the beast that is the Eye of Sauron. You know, he's watching. He's like Roz from Monsters, Inc. He's watching, always watching, including sometimes right up to the last second where he just spit out some fun stuff for us here to analyze. So we're going to do it live right now. The Eye of Sauron, first fixing its dark, burning, smoky-like gaze upon a newcomer to the Odd Block. We're going out to the world of uranium, in particular, Cameco Corp, ticker symbol CCJ. This is the world's largest publicly traded uranium company. In case you're wondering, they're based in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Say that 5 times fast. A year ago, this name was trading $11.50. They kind of vacillated in that range. Actually, looks like they drifted lower for the lion's share of the year. They closed the year right around $9 to $10. So they actually sold off for the lion's share of 2020 when the rest of the market was having its nice run. Then, almost like clockwork, actually in December, they started rallying, looks like, right before the end of the year. So they got up to about $13.50 in December 16th. Then by January 7th, they were trading about $14.50. So they had a nice little pop there from decent to January. Then they kept rallying. By March, they were trading $19.25. So well north of where they are right now. And then they sold off a bit again, down to about 15, almost $16 in April. Then they turned right back around again by June, looks like June 10th or 11th. They were trading at their pretty much 52-week high, which was nearly $22, $21.95. So by that point, they had pretty much doubled from the heady days of last July when they were trading around $11. And then since then, they've kind of been giving up the ghost again, going from almost 22 right back down to where they are right now. $17.38. So not a good couple of months here for Cameco. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out here today, listeners. Looks like a couple of things. This thing's trading up a storm out here today. Let's look really quickly and see what the ADV is for good old CCJ. See how many actual contracts. They trade about 28,000 contracts a day. So this is not perhaps the sleepy beast you might think, but they're doing some numbers today. Nonetheless, looks like they're doing over 2.5x that already. In particular, a lot of that coming in. It looks like 2 trades. The first one that really caught our eye, and the one we probably want to focus on, Mr. Rock Lobster. Looks like some fairly aggressive call love. We got the D's 25. So again, we're trading not even 17.5, listeners, 17.37 right now. Someone coming in saying, I'll take those D's 25s. They're at 79 cents. I'll take them all. 11,860 times. That's about a 60 volatility if you are indeed curious. The stock was actually, looks like a little bit higher when they went up, 617.64, a little bit earlier in the show here. Obviously, there's earnings between now and December. The next earnings announcement is on July 28th. So it looks like someone really getting optimistic here. 25, that's, again, well above the 52-week high of about 22. So this thing really needs to pop. Now, he got himself some time here. He doesn't need to happen by tomorrow. Like a lot of the names we profile, they spend 79 cents for a weekly call expiring, end of this week. So this guy's got himself all the way to December. So he's got some time. So it needs to happen, let's say, sometime in the next couple of months. Otherwise, he's going to be wearing pretty much half of that premium in decay. So, yeah, this is an interesting one to watch, but that's not enough, Mr. Rock Lobster. It's like someone also playing a little bit closer to home, coming in, gobbling up a couple hours, I think before this call spread went up, before this calls went up, we saw a call spread go up in September as well. The 1720 going up 13,500 times. Looks like paper buying that for a whopping 90 cents. That's about a 50-odd vol on those strikes there, listeners. So we got someone gobbling up a decently sizable call spread, Mr. Rock Lobster, the 1720. And then a couple hours later, someone coming out saying, you know what, that's not optimistic enough for my taste. I want the D's 25s. I will take them all for 79 cents. What say you, sir? Looks like people are looking for some upside here in everyone's favorite name from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Say that 5 times fast, mister. I dare you right now to say that.
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Oh, there you go. Not bad. Not bad. If I was wearing a cap, I would doff it to you, sir.
That usually something like that would be a layup for you. Like, he's got no chance. No chance. He's got no chance. I'm on my game today somehow. I just got off a webinar for our Trading Legion. But I look at this, and so this is actually a stock in our Pit Crazy room that has some interest. Uranium is an interesting play if they ever start firing up nuclear power plants, which I don't see how we're going to be a green energy place without it. So I think this is a good long-term play for somebody. I think the 1720 call spread doesn't look bad from that point of view. There's like all options now, there's upside skew, so you have a relatively inexpensive call spread. Just a little less than $1 is not too bad. I think the Januaries are a pretty long. Those are a long hike, I think, getting out there to January.
It was actually December, but it's okay.
I'm sorry, December. I can't even read my own thing. But
you were doing so well there, and he kind of dropped the ball.
Going up 24,000 now. So is this the wow? Anyway, this is our. You never like buying calls on the first day you buy them. You're down money on them. So I think this is could be a long-term purchase, just not a. I think we would need to see kind of a big pop here, but yeah, I think this is part of the green thing. Maybe somebody's trying to get a little ahead of the spending coming out of the U.S. on uranium. So I think the D25 is a tough one. I'd rather buy the 1825 for a little over $1 than buy the D25s for $1. Or the D's 1825 would be 2 over 70 is $1.30. I think I'd rather pay $1.30 for that one than buy the D's 25. So that's a tough one. You'd have to be very, very, very bullish. Very, very, very bullish.
You're right. A ton more of these calls have come in since we started talking. 24,000. You're right, on the tape now. So interesting. Someone's got a serious axe to grind on D's. I kind of like that better as a covered call. What do you think, Mr. Rock Lobster?
I think it makes a fine covered call.
You're talking almost 5%, like 4.5% out to D's, and if the stock runs up there, that's just a bonus.
Yeah. I think that's that probably has Mr. Tusaw interested right now, I would say.
He has been kind of quiet. I hear a little bit of typing on his end, so I do think he's diving into them thar uranium hills as we speak. What do you think, listeners? Does that one intrigue you? I have Sauron spitting out some hot fire here in the world of uranium. That definitely intrigues me. I don't like my covered calls that go out that far usually, but if someone's going to be obliging enough to prop up all the upside call skew in December, who am I to say no thank you, sir? But we'll keep on rolling out here, see if we can find something else equally as intriguing. Looks like we have a lot of newcomers in the old odd block today, Mr. Rock Lobster, which I always like. I always like mixing it up. We're going to drop down in size a little bit now, but I think we're going back to some territory you like. Oh, no, this is Constellium. We talked about them before. This is some territory you like. This is well-trod territory for us here, Mr. Rock Lobster. It's a strategy. Stop me if you've heard it before. Some may call it the line in the sand put. That seems to be what's going up here in everyone's favorite Constellium SC. Oh, this is our old friend, the manufacturer of aluminium. Aluminium. Global aluminium. Yes, how can I forget? This one has amused me to no end for years here. Constellium, ticker symbol CSTM. They manufacture, as I mentioned, aluminium. Trading a year ago, $8.70. Rallying hard all the way up till about March of this year, hit 1680. And then they sold off a bit down to about 14 and change. Then they turned right back around and rallied up to about 20 and change. Their high of about 20 and a third. That was back about a month ago, June 16th. And it looks like they've trended down since then, down to about 18.30 where they are right now. Today, continuing to sell off, down another 40 cents or a little over 2%. So no joy here for Constellium and their rolled aluminum products. It's never going to get old, listeners, so don't even bother to send your hate mail. So what do we see out here today? We've got AUG line in the sand puts going out in the weeklies. The AUG expiring on the 13th, so not your standard expiration. These are the 16 puts going up pretty much a little bit off the bid, actually. Dime off the bid, 25 cents. Looks like 5,200 times. The market was crazy. These are 15 cents at 50, so that's a nonsense market to begin with. And this went up late, so there is a possibility they could have maybe bought these. Maybe the real offer was at 25 cents. It's possible. Weirder things have happened. There are earnings between now and expiration. Earnings are on July 21st, so there's some earnings juice baked into this. So this could be one of two things, Mr. Rock Lobster. Someone drawing a decent line in the sand here in Constellium through earnings, getting about a 55 vol to do so, or someone coming in getting a little bit spooked by the looming earnings, thinks perhaps rolled aluminum not looking good in the near future, and decides to pay a quarter or 55 vol for these 16 puts expiring on the 13th. Which do you think they were up to, sir?
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. You know, we see these and we think automatically, we think line in the sand. This was like it was hard to figure out exactly what this business does. Is like in a service business. I thought this was didn't we cover this once before?
Yes, we have discussed rolled aluminum in the past. Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. CSTM, Constellium. Yes. All right. So I'm looking at this. A lot of revenues. And it just, what are you going to do? Line in the sand is line in the sand. What the heck? What am I going to say, right? Commodities, line in the sand, 16 puts, a little closer, like you said, a little closer to the fire on this one. And it could be the fact that there's just not a lot of juice in these bad boys. So, again, this is a line in the sand put where there's already a bid for these puts, it appears. But let's see here. Nope, it's they kind of whacked it out. I don't think it's a bad line in the sand put. Let's see, you're getting about 2% to August, which isn't bad, and you're picking up the stock at. You'd be picking up the stock at pretty much, I'm not going to say the low of the year, but somewhere in the middle. But a little more. You can't deny that this is a more aggressive line in the sand put, no matter what. So
you're on the line in the sand tip, it sounds like, and I think I lean that way as well. This market is kind of absurd. So that does obscure things, and the print went up late, but it does seem like they probably sold these. We shall watch both of these, listeners. I am very intrigued by what's going on in the land of uranium and, aluminum as well. Why not? As we wind things down here, let's go back a little bit. Not that far, though. Let's go back to the heady days of June 24th. Oh, we were all such innocent children then. June 24th, we profiled a Callpalooza in VIP Shop Holdings. This is a Chinese e-commerce company. I won't tell you where it's trading right now because it's a bit of a spoiler. A real quick overview. A year ago, the name was trading 21.62. They ran all the way up. By March 22nd, they hit $46. So they had quite the nice run, and then they pretty much gave it all back. That's it. That's all I'm going to say because any more would be a spoiler. And about a little less than a month ago, on June 24th, we profiled someone coming in saying, you know what, this party is about to pop off here in VIP Shop Holdings. I need to get while the getting is good. So they came in, scooped up 10,000 of the July 22 calls. Again, these are July, so they haven't expired. So technically they have 1 day to go, and anything could happen. But I think we know how these things are probably going to work out. The writing is on the wall. Then they came in and said, I need a little more. I'm going to buy 8,000 more of these bad boys, get them for 45 cents this time. So like 18,000 of those bad boys. And if that wasn't enough, they said, I'm getting a little bit closer to the fire. I'm also going to buy some July 22s expiring on July 2nd. 8,000 of those bad boys as well, and pay a whopping 30 cents for those. And also, it looks like they even bought the July 20 halves for 55 cents. That's a strange one because 55 cents, I guess. So, yeah. So, a total of 30,000 of the July 22s, 10,000 of the July 20 halves traded that day, as well as we also had those weeklies expiring on the 2nd as well. So, all sorts of crazy paper going up. And unfortunately for them, now we get to spoil their time. Listen, I said they bought the 20 half, 22 strike. Those are the two primary strikes that they really loaded up on. Unfortunately for them, the stock right now is $19.48. So, yeah, no joy there. And they bought close to the high. It had a few moments here. It looks like back towards the end of June, it got back up. It sold off to about 17.5, actually, almost immediately. Right before this trade, actually. So the 24th was when the trade went up. And the stock then was $18.89, actually. And then they proceeded to kind of just never really hit those levels. They sold off again to $18.17. They got up as high as 20 and change very briefly in late June. And that was kind of about it. So the stock's actually higher now than it was when these calls went up, but not enough to make the 22s and the 20 halves pop. So we're looking at these were all still open, by the way, if you're wondering. So on the 22s alone, just that 10,000 and 8,000 lot, just those two, they dropped $720,000 just on those. And the 22 calls that went out on the 2nd of July, those were still open when they went out. Stock wasn't there, obviously, as well. That's another about $250,000. He's talking about $1 million just on those. And obviously a total of 30,000 and 10,000 went up on those. So they dropped even more. So Mr. Rock Lobster, once again, sir, the premium buying destruction continues here in the odd block. But unlike a lot of the other ones we profiled, this one, it seems like never had a chance, sir.
I'm just looking at this one. VIP Shop. I'll tell you what, all these little meme names, I don't know if this was really a meme name, but they really kind of crushed it. And I think folks are looking for that move back up, that big move to make things kind of a little more fun again. And I'm saying, like, right now, you've got, I was just looking at open interest. You know what, though, too? They're even diving into the July 16s on here still today, like the 22s, the 20s, the 16s. So kind of there's almost like no end in.
They won't give up the
no
ghost.
End.
They keep coming back for more. There's an infinite well of resources to buy VIP shop calls, sir.
Yes, and that's kind of what it looks like. You're not. There's a lot of open interest here on the 22s, and they're buying. They're just buying more today. So, not a. All I can say is right now is this is feeling like a little bit like the road to Palookaville on these, and they just can't get enough of them. Maybe something happens, some sort of miracle. Could happen, but as of right now, it doesn't look like we're a little short of miracles.
They do have a day to go, so anything could happen. Perhaps we'll be profiling the most epic of home run turnarounds tomorrow on Oddities, Mr. Rock Lobster. I don't think so.
Could.
I don't think so. But we could be. Who knows? This guy, and he picked up the 16s to boot, so he could be laughing all the way to the bank. But you know who's laughing right now? Because your questions are getting on the show. It's you folks. It is time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, let's get to it. Looks like your buddy Luigi there, Mr. Rock Lobster, is tired of me mocking all the darkness in Maine. He says, I bet the clam pirates can see out there in the darkness. So there you go. Are your clam pirate friends still out and about in the inky black, sir?
You know what? Today, actually, they were here this morning, but the tide has come in and swallowed them up.
You didn't chase them off with the old shotgun again like you normally do?
You know what? The tide sort of does that for me every day, thankfully. But I'll tell you what, they as soon as you can hear them buzzing around at 5 a.m. One day I'll just put my phone out the window and just record it so you can hear the alarm clock that I have every morning when I wake up.
I guess there are worse ways to wake up than to the nautical-based piracy going on right outside your window. Interesting things, Most people would have thought that would have gone away back, let's say, in the 1700s. But hey, not for the rock lobster. It's a daily occurrence for him. All right, Uncle Mike, I hope you are rested. I hope you are ready, because it's an Uncle Mike question answering palooza. Everyone wants to get at you, Uncle Mike. I don't know what you did. You opened the floodgates. Folks loving themselves from Uncle Mike today. First off, Jason Cruz. That name sounds familiar. I believe he's written in before. He wrote in specifically to you. He wants to know, on In the Money covered calls, do wash sale rules ever come into play? All right, Uncle Mike, you're my go-to guy for all things taxes. What do you have to say for Jason and his concerns about wash sales impacting his covered call sales?
My guess is yes, but I just want to clarify, and he asked me this question on Twitter as well. I can give you a guess of yes because of the fact that you're still participating in the upside on it. So I'm going to guess yes, but I'm not an accountant, so I do not have the authority to give you that. And plus, I don't really know 100% in terms of wash sales within the money covered calls. So I would plan on them, but if not, what you can do, irs.gov, it takes you, if you call the 800 number, I've done this before whenever I've had questions like this, it usually takes about maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get through to someone. But once you do, they are pretty helpful with it. Believe it or not, most people don't believe me when I tell them the IRS is helpful, but 100% of the time when I've called the 800 number on the website, they've been really good to me, but it is going to be a 20 to 30 minute wait.
Mr. Rock Lobster, anything on this? Wash sales and covered calls? You ever bumped into this, or any of your mentees ever bumped into this?
I have to say, I like covered calls in a retirement account and qualified monies account for this exact reason, just dealing with the tax and all that stuff. It's like a pain in the butt. I think covered calls and
Amen.
A covered call and retirement account, you just sell the call, you get taken out, you're happy, you get the money, and you go look for something else to do. I think it's probably the best thing for the individual investor that wants to be a long-term investor, which I do, looking for opportunities. It's just, so that's where I am. I don't even, like, in a non-qualified account, I don't write calls against stock because it drives me freaking nuts. So I just stopped doing it and made my life easier. There you go.
That is a good way to proceed if you want to avoid this in the future, Jason. I did some quick research while Uncle Mike was talking. I came across that bastion of all things financial knowledge known as Investopedia. According to them here, obviously we all know what a wash sale is. If you don't know what that is, listeners, obviously if you take a loss in one security, you cannot carry that over towards the purchase of another, quote unquote, as they term it, substantially identical security within 30 days. According to them, they say the wash sale rule does apply to call options as well. They give a nice example here of Taylor. They say, for example, if Taylor takes a loss on a stock and buys the call option of that very same stock within 30 days, they will not be able to claim the loss. Instead, Taylor's loss will be added to the premium of the call option. Now, he's talking about buying calls. They're not talking about the in-the-money covered call, which is a little bit of a different flipping of the script here. But I do agree with the Rock Lobster. That's a route I've taken for a long time, too. Use the old IRAs and places to do these things, and then you will you will have a lot easier way to proceed going forward. But an interesting question, nonetheless, Jason. We love when you folks throw us some crazy curveballs. All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, you're back on the docket again, sir. No rest for the wicked here. Next up, we got McDaniels. McDaniels says, I saw Mike's blog post. I think a collar with put spread is interesting, but I'm concerned about more downside protection. What are his thoughts on doing something similar in SPY, but instead using a put fly with similar strike ranges, or perhaps using a ratio 1/2 put spread, short 1, long 2? So obviously, Mike, you did a blog recently about collaring with a put spread. He wants to extend his protection. He wants a put fly or the 1/2 put spread, selling 1, buying 2. Obviously, one of those is going to give you a little bit more downside bang for the buck than the other. But I'm curious, Uncle Mike, what are your thoughts on these addendums to your collar with put spread, sir?
It's an interesting thought. When doing so, if you want doomsday downside, you got to buy the puts. There's really no way around it. For purpose of a trade, I have no problem with doing an out-of-the-money put butterfly. It could be a great thing if you manage it well and In terms of managing butterflies, I don't think there's any finer group of educators out there than the guys over at the Option Pit. They can help you with that in terms of how to manage your butterflies. But for purpose of long-term portfolio hedging, I think you need to either have one of two things. Either one, buy the put outright and just suck it up and pay the premium, or two, buy the put spread and then just accept the downside. If you're concerned with more downside risk, then a route that you could go, typically what I do is I just say, okay, if it does go below my put spread, then I'll just accept the long-term risk and hold the stock. But if you do want to go out a little bit further, I don't know if a butterfly is something to use as an additional hedge. In terms of doing the 1x2 to where you're selling one and buying two, that if you're set, I'd have to kind of know how you're setting that one up. Meaning if you're, let's say XYZ stocks at 60 and you sell the 55 and buy two 50s, that could be something to do, because that way, if the stock does increase, then you could potentially not have a cost for the downside. And then if you get the doomsday downside, you are protected with that extra put with which you buy. So that one I think is actually interesting, but understand that it's going to require more maintenance when doing so than you would have with just a butterfly or doing the collar as such. So given the choice between the two of them, I like the 1x2 better, but ultimately just have an understanding how to pay for your hedge. That is a question that has plagued traders since the beginning of options themselves, and that's what I wrestle with on a daily basis.
That's the name of your next book, Uncle Mike, How to Pay for Your Hedge. I'd probably sell some copies, I think. People would probably buy that. Yeah, I'm with you. The butterfly doesn't really get you much. What does the Rock Lobster say? It's like kissing your sister. He has all these weird familial analogies that he makes. Most of them are very disturbing. But I like the 1x2 bet. If you're looking for the downside bang for your buck, that's definitely going to get you more. What was the name there? Oh, McDaniel. I like that handle. McDaniel. Sounds like McLovin from that movie there. Forgot the name of it right now. We've got, let's see, really quickly. We got Lionheart Leo 99. He wants us to, can you check this out? Let me know what you think. He sends a link to this NSAV name. Apparently they're about to launch a crypto exchange. And he says they're led by mavericks in the crypto and DeFi space. So this might be more for our crypto rundown show, but he sent it in just now. I just pulled it up. This ticker has all the trappings of your classic pump and dump here. Listen, it says NSAV, Net Savings Link Inc. is trading 0.026 cents right now. Just about a week or so ago, it was trading 0.01. So then it tripled to 0.03 on this Tuesday. And now it's sold off then to 0.02. Now it's back up to 0.026. So apparently they are in the process of launching a crypto exchange on August 9th. What that means, what this name is, I don't know. This ticker, this chart alarms me a little bit. This has pump and dump written all over it. The fact that people are hitting us up to talk about it maybe has something to do with that as well. But maybe this is the next Doge. Who knows? And it's trading a fraction of a cent now. It gets all the way up to maybe $1, and then you cash out for millions. But yeah, right now, Lionheart Leo 99. This to me looks pump and dumpy. And if you're on this, don't get caught in the dump. Get out before then. All right, let's keep on rolling then into our final segment. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, Mr. Rock Lobster, when you're not getting involved in pump and dumps in the crypto world, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week, at least until Ball Views tomorrow, sir?
I am noticing. VIX, it has made a persistent bid all day. I was just doing a little tweet texting with Bob Lang over there. I don't know what his product is, but I know people do like him quite a bit. He might have been on a couple of your shows every once in a while. Just, you know what? When vol is going up and the bid is persistent, I would just say, listeners, keep an eye on it. I'm pretty much usually back spread, and I'm not making any money right now. But that could change by tomorrow. But yeah, there's a persistent bid for vol. It's not going away. And I think, to be honest, I don't think the market has really ever gotten over that inflation number. Can the Fed do their dance and all that? And I think that more inflation is not the best for growth stocks, which has been keeping the market going. So just say, that's the thing. As of right now, I think there's a little bit of how should we say that? Like there's a little friction in the market, and vol's not going down. That's the bottom line. It's not going down. So there isn't willing sellers of juice, and that also makes it very easy for VIX to fly, because the liquidity provider has no trouble now in an automated, in a full auto market, just letting that vol fly. So I'd say, everybody, keep your powder dry here for a couple days, and we'll see what happens as we go into huge tech earnings next week.
Yeah. Or if you're like Uncle Mike, get incredibly short deltas. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week, sir, until our next show on Monday?
I definitely watching the tech earnings that are coming up. As I guess maybe that's a lot of them are after the show on Monday, but nonetheless, watching that in the near future. Continuing to watch the 10-year. We've actually had a little bit of a rally as the show has been happening, so watching that as well. And right now, the 4,400 mark was a little bit too far for the S&P to reach. So we're going to see if we can make another run at it right now. And I am actually, my finger has not clicked the buy button yet, but it's getting closer and closer to clicking the buy button. I might do it today. I might do it tomorrow. This might be an opportunity for us. So I'm actually getting kind of excited here.
Uh-oh. Uncle Mike's excited. Watch out below there. Speaking of watching out below, looks like the markets have trended a little lower over the course of our show here. We spooked them down now out of the green into the red, off about 0.25%. S&P off about 0.75%. And the NASDAQ off over 1%, about 1.3%. So a little bit of extension to the dark side out there. Let's see where VIX is as we end the show. Up about a point, up 17.75. And VIX, well, maybe I'll have a second chance, Mr. Rock Lobster, to dump some of those call flies that I missed the last time we had a brief resurgence. I should get off the show right now and go try to sell those. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you. When you're not battling clam pirates to the death, what are you talking about on the option pit that may intrigue our listeners?
Again, we are looking at how to get the market to pay for your back spreads. That is a topic in our trading legion that's very popular. It's a technique. You can learn the technique. You don't have to be trading every day. Once a week when you have time, putting trades on that you can manage, all that kind of stuff, go to their trading legion. We are actually doing a huge special on it. If you have questions on it and want to learn how, learn the technique, send me a note, Andrew at optionpit.com, or call 188-TRADE-01 and ask for Ted. And you can just learn how to do it. There's nothing wrong with being long, but every once in a while you want to find a way to pay for that protection, and that's what we do a pretty good job at Option Pit, teaching people how to do.
When I saw the massive influx of people coming into our Pro and our Plus when we first launched it, I was like, wow, this is a lot of people. What's a good way to describe a lot of people? Oh, Legion. That's a great way. And, that speaks to my historical interest. It speaks very much, to me as a whole. And then I realized that you scumbags over there at Option Pit already have a trading Legion. So I stopped saying it, even though I like it. And it probably applies more to me than to you guys. But c'est la vie. I'll be nice. So I can't call our mass amount of folks Legion anymore, even though it sounds way cooler coming from me, I do have to say. But I digress. That's a conversation for another day. Mr. Uncle Mike, do you have any Legions you want to share with the masses out there, sir?
Share by following me on Twitter at Mike Tusaw. I try and write as much content as I can, and I put it on Twitter as often as I can at Mike Tusaw, or check out my website if you're looking for a financial advisor who delves, or should I say oftentimes lives, in the option product, stcharleswealth.com.
All right, everybody. That music means we're done with the old OB, but if you're listening live, you don't have to go home. The bouncer won't kick you out. We'll put some fun stuff in the chat. We'll be back in exactly 27 minutes. Like I mentioned, ags are rocking and rolling. They've never been particularly my wheelhouse, so I brought in someone whose wheelhouse it is. So we shall dive deep into the madness that is corn and wheat and soybeans and everything else. If you're looking for a volatile sector these days, it's kind of hard to beat ags. So we're going to get into all of that and a whole bunch more coming up on TWIFO in about 27 minutes. Of course, tomorrow we're back noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for Vol Views. Back an hour after that to talk some weird madness. Maybe, who knows? Maybe some of these calls we were talking about in good old VIP Shop will turn right around. And he'll have a fortune to discuss on his hands tomorrow. But I don't think so. Who knows? Will we go back to South America? A lot of Brazil madness. Stay tuned for that tomorrow as well. If you're not on the Pro yet, yes, I'm going to call it the Pro Legion, because why not? Nana nana boo boo to you, Option Pit. If you like the Pro Legion, then check it out. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. See you back here in about 26 minutes now for Twi-Fi. I got to get moving. Or tomorrow for Vol Views, and then back again for the Pro folks on Oddities, and we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.